Hi, and welcome to Shelve the Mom Guilt, how to build a business with a young family. Let's be honest, it's hard to build a business at any time, and to add a young family on top of that is a whole other challenge. So I'm really glad you're here. My name is Stephanie McClarty, and I am from Wealth of Family. Wealth of Family is a community and resource hub for moms looking to start and grow a business. My background is that I founded a company called Reficient 10 years ago. We're still going strong today. We're in the resale and recycling sector of the telecommunications industry. And when I became a mom, I just loved how entrepreneurship gave me freedom and flexibility to create my own life and to have the space with my family. And so many other friends wanted the same. So I've created Wealth of Family to help other moms to figure out a business they want to do and then to get it off the ground. Let's start by talking about mom guilt. I think we've all felt it at various times. And really what it comes down to is that our values and our actions are in two different places. So what we value, what we really care about, what we're committed to, things like our family and perhaps starting a business, our husbands, our partners, whatever it is that's important to you, we say one thing to ourselves and sometimes we do another. So our actions are out of alignment with our values. That's all it means. And really, if you're taking this personally, like I'm not a good mom or something like that, I want you to consider that mom guilt is really just an indicator. It's a signal that your values and your actions are out of alignment. So when you're feeling that mom guilt, think about shelving it. So think about putting it on a shelf, and we'll talk about what you can actually do to get out of mom guilt. And I say to put it on a shelf because it might rear its head again. Life changes, our kids change, we change. And so to expect that mom guilt might go away completely might not be realistic, but we can recognize it and shelve it. All right, so that's what mom guilt is. What can we do about it? There's several different things. So first of all, and maybe the most important, is to be intentional with your time. So be intentional on when you can work. And I want you to think about your time in terms of two different aspects. Your time in terms of focused time and your time in terms of blended time. So focused time is when you either spend time with your family or your husband, you're focused on that one thing that you really care about and nothing else. So you put your phone away. Well, your business should also have this focused time. You should be spending it only on your business, and chances are you'll also be the most productive at that time as well. Then there's times where you can have a blended approach where you're working on your business, but perhaps your family is also there, and we'll talk about that. So the key question to you in terms of how to structure your time is, when do you work best? For me, I'm more of a morning person. I would rather get up and work before my family gets up than stay up later and work after. So think about, when do you work best, and structure your focus time wherever you can around that. Now, I've talked to many moms about what works for them and what they have done to build a business with a young family. And something I consistently heard was that they either got up early or they stayed up after their family went to bed and did some work. Also using nap times to work. In the last 6 months throughout the pandemic, have had an hour and a half to 2 hours in the early afternoon to work when my daughter has slept. And for me, that was the most productive time. So I geared myself up to work and maximize that time while she napped. Now, if your kids don't nap, then a really good idea is to instill quiet time. So perhaps you're playing quietly in their room, but you can still get a few things done for your business. And also working on weekends is a common thing if you've got a partner or some supports to allow you to work on a weekend. And besides focus time, I want you to think about what you can do as a blended time approach. So are there things that you can do with your children there. Let's talk about screen time. So screen time is not necessarily a bad thing. I don't know about you, but I said before I had kids, I would never do screen time. And then, of course, once we have kids, our position changes. Screen time is okay as long as it's intentional and if it fits with your values. So maybe it's 30 minutes or 45 minutes a day where you allow your kids to watch something that maybe it's of your choosing, or you select the few items that they can choose from while you do some work. It could also be having your child strapped to you, especially if they're young enough. Have your child strapped to you and get some things done. Or take your kids with you. I have a student of mine who took her daughter with her to go and sell their prints. They're doing cartoonist prints, and she brought her daughter with her to the store where they ended up selling 50 prints. I mean, how cool is that? To give your child exposure to entrepreneurship at an early age. So what can you also do with your kids there? Just a few photos for fun. This was me bringing my daughter to work with me when she was really young. I would strap her on, and as in that first photo, and there's a number of things I could get done with her strapped on me. Could I get everything done? No, but I could get a lot of things done. And I just had to be selective on what those things were. I had a crib set up in my office. I love that second picture with her head just poking up. And we had things like a high chair there and a jolly jumper type apparatus so that she could be with me while I was at work. And usually this was once a week. And it actually worked out really, really well for the first year. The second thing I want you to think about is to use your community and to get help. And as much as we want people to read our minds, and specifically our husbands or our partners, they don't necessarily know what we need of them. And so I really encourage you to be specific in your asks. So, for example, a great time that I've found to work while our daughter has been home is first thing in the morning. So I've asked my husband, can you be with her during the first hour to hour and a half of the day? And at 8 a.m., I will take over. I found that by being specific and asking this of him, he's more likely to say yes and, to do what I want him to do. If I just asked him to hey, can you help me out? It won't necessarily get the same result. So think about what it is that you really need and be specific in your asks. Also, use childcare as much as possible and as much as works for you. So childcare could be formal, like a daycare or a preschool, but it could also be something more informal, like having a grandparent come over or an aunt or an uncle, that kind of thing, where they can give you some focused time for you to work on your business. Another really neat idea is if finances are a concern, or if you don't have a family setup where you could have someone to come over, think about creating a little pod or group where you can swap time. So for example, maybe you find another mom who's in a very similar situation to you. Maybe you get together a couple of times a week. And one of those times a week, you're in charge of all the kids and you let the other mom have a few hours off to work. And then on the next day, it flips where she's in charge of all the kids and it gives you some time off. It's a really good strategy if you don't have those same supports or finances are a concern, which I know they often are. When you get to the point, let me just move my little head here. When you get to I can't move my head easily. When you get to the point and you can outsource, I really recommend you to do that. It's hard to outsource in the beginning when you don't have a lot of money coming in for your business. But once you get the ball rolling and you gain some momentum, think about outsourcing the things that you don't like to do or you're not very good at doing. It will probably reap rewards for you. And the final thing is to ask, I'm trying to move my head here, to Ask your kids also to help you out and really to engage them. And the thing that they can do that will probably help you out the most is to be independent and not come to you for everything. So for example, get them to get themselves dressed in the morning, get them to set the table, put things away. My daughter goes to a Montessori school, and this is the whole approach. Kids can do way more than what we give them credit for. So give them the space to be independent, and it will also free up some time and space for you as well. I'd love to tell the story about Mabel's Labels. They are a label company that does machine washable and dishwasher proof labels for kid stuff. They were founded by 4 awesome moms here in the area where I'm from. And one of the founders, Julie, has 6 kids. And they started this business by now about 15 years ago. And she had really young kids at that time. 6 kids. And what did she do? She taught them to be independent so they didn't come to her for everything. And in her eyes, she saw it really as a win-win solution. Created that space for her and that respect for her as an entrepreneur. But also it really allowed them to thrive early on as kids. And it gave them those lifelong skills and lessons to be independent and self-sufficient. I love that story. The third thing I want you to think about is that you probably can't work in the same way that you used to work. Unfortunately, you might not have big blocks of time to work with. So let's work with what you do have. And chances are those are smaller amounts of time. So think about working in what I call bursts. So these small chunks of time where you can get things done. There's a few elements that will help you to work in bursts. One is the idea of micro tasks. Micro tasks are taking your to-do list and breaking them down into little steps. So these little steps that just move you a little bit forward at a time. And basically, if you find yourself with 5 minutes, even 2 minutes, you can go to your list and get something done. And it's great to check that off because it also helps you to gain momentum and feel good. And let's be honest, we could all use a little bit of that during our day. The thing about micro tasks is it's really important to write them down. So if you've got 5 minutes or even just 2 minutes, you're not searching for what to do. You've got a list written down. I know for a lot of moms, they write them down in their phones because chances are their phone is not that far away. But whatever works for you. I also know one mom who has 2 micro lists. She has a micro list for her business and she's got a micro list for the stuff she has to do at home. And she goes back and forth. So when she finds herself a time, she gets one thing done in her business. The next time, she gets one thing done at home. This idea of micro tasks will probably help you to get a lot more done in a shorter amount of time. The next thing I want you to think about is batching. So batching means that you do several things all at once versus trying to get a little bit done here and a little bit done here of something else. You're focusing on one task or a couple of tasks at once. I know we're good at multitasking, but for productivity and efficiency, it's good to focus. And really, when you're thinking about batching, use your blocks of time accordingly. So let's say you need to get blog posts done for your business. You need to write and you need to be sharp and you need to be creative. Well, if you're someone like me who's a morning person, you generally want to do that in the morning versus night. So when you get up early and you sit down to write blog posts, think about writing maybe 2 blog posts at once and not just one. So get more done at once and really leverage that time to do one task and do more of it. The third thing I want you to think about is that you might not always have your hands, so dictate where you can. This is a strategy often used by moms with really young children, especially when their hands are full and you might have your baby with you, but And maybe you get some ideas, or you want to just put some thoughts down in terms of that blog post and what you want to say. Dictate into your phone to record those ideas. So you don't have to always write things down physically. Use dictation when your hands are full. Another strategy is to be intentional with your time in terms of planning. So usually in every business, there's about 3 tasks that will really move your business forward. There's a lot of things you could do, but there's usually about 3 tasks that will truly move you forward. Figure out what those 3 tasks are. And then sit down, usually once a week, and figure out what needs to be done that week. So perhaps it's working on social media or marketing, or those blog posts that we talked about. Usually at least 1, if not 2, of those key tasks will be around sales and marketing. So sit down once a week, plan out what you really need to get done that week, and then anything else can be, bonus. Also do that on a daily, as a daily habit as well. So sitting down either the night before or the morning of and figuring out what are those few tasks that you really need to get done and focus on them first. And finally, having somebody that you can be accountable to is a great strategy to keep you on track. So an accountability buddy. Maybe it's someone who's in a very similar situation to you where you can bounce ideas off of as well. And really say to each other, what is it that you're going to get done in the next week, or however often it is that you meet. I have an accountability buddy and she's amazing. She's a great support. I love bouncing ideas off of her. But really, when we meet once a week for 30 minutes, it's what did we get done of our list from the last week? So it helps to keep us both on track. And finally, if you get nothing else from this video, I want you to know really that what you're doing is phenomenal. And it's hard enough to start a business, as I mentioned at the beginning, with all of our best things lined up. It is an extra challenge to do it with a young family. So you're really taking on a big task. And therefore, I also want you to be gentle with yourself. So be gentle, give yourself the space. If you don't always, measure up to what you wanted, give yourself the space. You don't need to take on that mom guilt or whatever it is that will hold you back. Be gentle with yourself. And in the end too, you have to do what's right for you. There's many different approaches to building a business when you have a young family. Some moms will do it one way, other moms will do it another, but you have to do what's right for you. And I tell the story of one mom I connected with who started a business when she was a single mom. Her daughter was born and was literally weeks old when she started her business. And she said that in the very beginning, she hardly slept. She was focused on her daughter and her business and nothing else. And it was really hard. But she got the business off the ground and it ended up being very successful. And other moms commented that, well, all the power to you, but I wouldn't wish that for anyone. And the mom said, I don't regret anything. I don't think my daughter missed out. It was a really hard period, but it was part of my journey. And she doesn't have to explain it to anybody else. Do what's right for you and what's right for your family. It will turn out in the end. Also, think about the long game and give yourself as much time as you can. So if you want to do a launch, think about adding on some time to that just to give yourself that space so that if things don't go as well as you want, or your child gets sick, or what have you, you've got some extra time. Think about your business as a long-term goal, not as something, short-term to turn around, because that will probably add a lot of stress, which will feed into the mom guilt. And finally, I want you to know that we all need some time for downtime, to relax. So whether that's taking a day off per week, a couple days off per week, whatever that is for you, if you get to a point where you're almost about to burn out, and let's be frank, Having a young family and a business is a lot, so we are susceptible to pushing ourselves, and sometimes we push ourselves too much and we get to that place of almost burnout. If you need to, take some time off. Take some time off. And what I always recommend is set a deadline by which you will get back on track. Set a timer so that you get back on track, because if you're really committed to this business, you will make it work in the long term. So be gentle with yourself. I have a number of free resources on my website at wealthoffamily.com. There's a free resource library there. It has a whole bunch of tools for moms who are starting and growing a business. So there's checklists, there's trainings, there's workbooks. It's all free. So make sure you use the resources that are available to you. And that's at wealthoffamily.com. Also, as you can see, I'm a real person and I'm here to help as well. So by all means, please send me an email if you have a specific question, or find me on Facebook and send me a message. I am here to help. I'm here to see you succeed, and to do so in a way that allows you and your family to thrive and shelving that mom guilt. Have a great day.